There's no question that for the 78th year now, motorcycles are the star of the show this week, but decades before motorcycles, there were trains. And in one Northern Hills town, miniature trains still draw eyes, commemorating those days gone by. It's a display that inspires daydreaming as we climb aboard along the way to Deadwood. Up in the old gold town of Deadwood, traditional brick roads are lined with bright, shiny bikes, a fun contrast between present and past. But in a basement beneath a t-shirt shop, the nostalgic sounds of old railroads still fill the air. And for just $1, you can put your nose up to the window and watch these miniatures ride the rails.
So back when I was 8 years old, my dad bought me my first train set. And we built our first layout in the basement on a little 4x8 sheet. And that's where I learned how to lay track and do work with plaster and making mountains. And
Jack Anfinson is the president of the Northern Hills Railway Society. He's been a member since 2010. There are pictures of trains lining the hallway, including some from here in the hills.
In the Black Hills, there were 3 railroads. And the first one that started up was the Black Hills and Fort Pierre. And that was owned and operated by the Homestake Gold Mine. The Deadwood Central ran passenger service from Deadwood to Lead and back. And then the Fremont, Elkhorn, and Missouri Valley came up, and they serviced all the mines up in the hills.
Many of the places that dot the landscape here are just imaginary.
You know, so a lot of times we'll build things that maybe places we've been or things that we've seen or places that we've liked.
And some of what we see are part of history, like the miniature Homestake Gold Mine. Jack says he got the blueprints for Homestake and started building.
Believe it or not, those 2 buildings are built out of cardboard boxes. And I take aluminum foil duct tape, which is sticky on the backside, and I press it in a form to make the corrugated siding. And then each one of those pieces of corrugated siding are put on one at a time.
And then he turned it over to another member who he says is a good painter.
And he did all the weathering and the detailing on it to make it look like it was aged. And
scenes so realistic make it even more fun to watch these trains run. Jack says, to the best of his knowledge, the club was formed in 1987 and has been in several places, including the KOA in Central City and the Opera House in Lead, before moving here in 2010. The club is all volunteers that have clearly poured a part of their heart into their work. Check out the Black Hills Power Building.
The coal that we used for that bunker there was we had gotten from Gillette. And the member that got the coal put it in his coffee grinder and ground it up with a coffee grinder and then had to throw away his coffee grinder.
The topography looks in so many ways like the Black Hills themselves.
After you trim it up and spray it, then we apply this green material to it that gives it the true look of the tree. Each locomotive has its own designated controller, and it has its own frequency. So you can have up to 99 different trains on your layout with 99 different controllers.
Which they don't. It's not a big money operation.
We have the dollar machine that runs the trains, and we have a donation box. And between those two, they keep us funded enough to keep our operation going.
Outside, Main Street is lined with bikes. It's a tradition. But in a place whose golden history is so full of railroads, it only makes sense to preserve those memories with miniature trains that still chug through the hills just like they used to. If you've met someone cool along the way, please call or email us to let us know. And by the way, if you're interested in joining, they are interested in new members. If you'd like to check out the display for yourself, it's on Main Street in Deadwood. It's in the basement of a t-shirt shop, but it's just across from the Mineral Palace, which should help you to find it. Still, the